Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. Be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. Let's start with the draft. I know everyone loves to do a draft grade. If you want to do that, that's fine, Mike. I'm more so interested in maybe going prospect by prospect and asking how you think the Saints did with each. And
yeah, I'm good with that.
Let's start with, go ahead.
I'm not great with grades because it's great for a click.
Yeah, for sure.
Great for a listen, but in the long run, it don't mean a damn thing.
You're right. Until they go play it out on the field,
they play.
So let's talk about what the Saints did at number 1 with Peyton Turner, 28th overall. I think it surprised a lot of people that he went that high.
Surprised everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody that said Peyton Turner was going to go to the Saints. And very few people even mentioned, even though there was some late conversation.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before, Matt. I think we're entering that era now of you find a prototypical defensive end or pass rusher, and you maybe take a chance on him because you know what? Those guys are getting harder and harder to find. You think about Peyton, you think about Jason Awu, who got picked a little bit later. Jason, everybody tells me he's a great athlete. Okay, what did he do last year? He didn't record one quarterback sack, not a one. Okay? Oh, that athletic stuff is fantastic. Okay? Did he influence a game when you watch Penn State? Did you say, man, that Jason Howell, man, he's an unbelievable player? No, you didn't say that at all. So I think we've entered that world because of supply and demand that we're not going back for. This is set in place now for a long time. And so I think Peyton sort of fits that mold. I know a couple guys on that staff really good. Watched him play a lot of football. Man, real smart young man. He is great size, huge wingspan, 7 foot, quick on his feet. Tough guy. He's played through a lot of injuries. Okay, he's missed a handful of games, but he's had a ton of them. He's had a lot of injuries at Houston and played through and tried to play through a lot of that. So here you have a guy that's played, and versatility too. He's played at tackle, played it in. If you watch Houston, did you say that guy is an unbelievable player?
Mike, honestly, I didn't watch a ton of Houston, man, so I'm just going to take your word for it.
No, I'm answering it for you.
Yeah, okay.
You didn't jump out and say, man, that guy is a great prospect. He was a good prospect.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the – why didn't he dominate in a conference? He's not going up against Alabama or Georgia or LSU or Florida offensive tackles. It's Tulane and Navy and Tulsa and some of these other teams. That's who you're going up against. Now, partially, and this is part 2 of it, and why I downgraded him a little bit because of it. I knew the injury part with him. That, he tears up a knee as a senior in high school. And he's had injuries. As a junior, 2 broken hands. Okay, you can't do anything about it, but how the hell are you playing defensive line? You can't use your hands.
Right.
Last year, a calf strain and a hamstring that he was playing with. But I give him credit. He tried to play through all that. He had a quad injury one year. He had a shoulder injury the next year. He played through that. I think he just missed maybe 3 or 4 games his entire career. But my thing about it is, I'm a big believer in this. You start to mount those injuries up, and that follows you. You're playing 17 games now in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't playing 9 or 10 or 12. You're playing 17. The big question mark with Peyton is not going to be talent. It's going to be availability. Can he play? Because he's going to try to play through every injury he's got. He's that type of guy. Really a super intelligent guy, and I can understand how you fall in love with him as a player. But I have a big concern about guys who have been nicked up. I really do. It's just something in the back of my mind that seemingly follows players. And immediately where the Saints are going to try to use him, and that is inside at defensive tackle. Partially is Ryan Nielsen brought this up a couple years back at Louisiana Line Camp, that, about the NASCAR package. And he sort of explained that, our deal is to try to get the best 4 pass rushers on the field in obvious pass rush situations. So with that in mind, you'd have Davenport and Granderson, if they're both healthy, would play in. Cameron Jordan, Peyton inside to play defensive tackle. And see, hey, okay, block those 4 guys. Let's see how good you are. That's going to have quite a mismatch. And, you can mix and match now with certain players and just alignments. But I think right off the bat, that's where you're going to see him being played. And this isn't really, to a certain extent, I guess it's a shot over the bow of Marcus Davenport. But, again, he was a guy, too, nicked up.
Yep.
It's not that he's not talented. He's hurt a lot. And so availability comes into play. You don't have Trey Hendrickson. Think Carl Granderson's a really good player, but he's undersized. But he's going to give you some pass rush. Man, Cam Jordan, he's going to go down as one of the greatest defensive players to ever play for the Saints.
Sure.
And you talk about availability. Man, that guy don't miss no games. And he's playing over 90% of the snaps. But, listen, in any profession, you get up in age. And so this is a pick for the future and a pick for the present. Understanding Davenport's injuries are every year. And Hendrickson's spot needs to be filled. And somewhere down the line, it's going to be that way with Cam. That, Father Time is also going to catch him. But, my thing about it is this is what I think, should get used to if you cover the NFL. That pass rushers, edge-wise, man, they few and far between. When you got a chance to pick them, you pick them, even sometimes selecting them maybe above where you might think they should go.
Yeah.
And I think that has happened to Jason Owat. It happened to Peyton Turner. Exactly that. That you knew that was going to be a spot, not for an immediate starter, but for a player that somewhere down the line you hope can stay healthy and fill into that big body. Because, man, when you look at him, he is a tall drink of water. I mean, he's a big, tall guy. And with that arm spread, you just hope that maybe, nothing breaks down. And what I'm more concerned about anything from the waist down, when you start picking up that type of weight, if it's not good weight, then you start to get problems with the hamstrings, the calves, the ankle, the knees, everything else. So it surprised me like it surprised everybody else. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think he'd go that high in the draft. I understand this RAS that's not new. They've been using that system since the late 80s. And that raw athletic skills, that's been something that's been in place, and he's got it. Now can he stay healthy, and can he turn being healthy and potential into production?
They go into day 2, and they stay on defense. Pete Werner, Paulson Adebo, did they get a starter in either one of those players?
Eventually, I think both will start, but not in year 1.
Okay.
I think the guy who's got the best chance to play is Adebo.
Okay.
I mean, that cornerback position is as thin as it can be, and they've got to bring in a veteran. I get the Saints won't say it because then that veteran cornerback got you about a teriyaki. I know you need it, and so I'm going to ask for more than I think maybe I'm worth because I know you need it. And, yeah, I can put that out. Oh, we good at corner. Yeah, you good at corner, all right. Yeah, come on. No one believes that. No one. So you're going to have to add a veteran corner and quite possibly 2 veteran corners out of this group. But, Pete Werner, if you were doing a grading scale, when you look at intelligence and instincts, he gets an A. Everything else, B+ guy. He's good against the run. He runs the field well. He's good in pass coverage. He can help you on special teams. 3-year starter at Ohio State. Okay, that's all B+ for me, all across the board in what he can do. And so I think in year 2, this is where he's going to make a run at it. Because this year, Zach Bond should have the advantage. He's there a year. But he didn't have the pass coverage experience that Werner did. Bottom line, all this horse hockey that thrown at you last year about, let me tell you about my film breakdown. Come on, he was an up-the-field guy. They were using him as a pass rusher, and he did short coverage. He wasn't in reverse to do a lot of plays. Werner has. That's a difference into that. And so I think year 2, he's got a chance to play, and he's a good, solid player across the board. And again, you look at all 3. You talk about being instinctive, being tough, being smart. So, man, listen, there's a certain formula to all that. I scouted Paulson Adebo for another school when he was coming out of Mansfield High School in Texas. He was a track athlete, played a little basketball. He was a receiver. He did play a lot of receiver and certainly played in the secondary. He verbally commits to Notre Dame. And then he makes another visit in January. The next week he goes to Stanford. Okay? South Bend, Indiana in January. Palo Alto, California in January.
Easy answer.
This is Charlie Sheen like, man. Hey, I'm going to Stanford. Really smart young man. He's built like you would want a cover cornerback to be built. Tall, rangy guy. Got a really good wingspan. Okay, he opts out, and man, we got a ton of calls about. I don't like nobody who opts out. Come on, genius, figure this out. He opts out in August when the Pac-12 made the announcement. Oh, we're not playing.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden in September, when they see the potential of the kind of money that the SEC and the ACC is going to bring in, hey, we back in. Hey, we want that money. Give it back. So you want him to change his mind after you told him you weren't playing. You told him basically, we're not playing this year. Listen, good luck, that sort of thing. And so he decides to opt out, go to the NFL, and train for it. 8 interceptions to me jumps out. Man, that's a lot of interceptions in a very short college career. He's a ball hawk. He thinks the ball's thrown to him. He goes up and he's going to get it. And he's played in a lot of different coverages. I'm getting old in this business because I remember his dad, Willie. Willie was the defensive secondary coach for Mike Ditka here in New Orleans.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, that's David's dad. And so Willie was really a really good defensive secondary coach. And so, Shaw, he likes those tall cover cornerbacks. They play, he's played all different sets there. They play a lot of zone and off coverage sets. He has played in man. And so, again, a year off, he's going to need a little bit of work as far as getting everything down. But, man, he is talented. Man, Matt, he's talented. And he's a really smart guy. It's a quick pickup for him. And so I like that pick with Paulson Adebo. And in nickel and dime schemes, you're playing a lot of defensive backs. He's got an opportunity to see playing time early.
He's on Twitter at Mike Detillier, recapping the Saints draft. Mike, you called it, man. It was in the book. You said it on this show. No pun intended. That the Saints were going to take Ian Book. And I'll be darned they did. So obviously you're not surprised by the pick. Let me ask you to reiterate how you think he fits in on this team, both short and long term.
Well, that's why, I've said this before, not just about Ian Book, but about other things. We got to start teaching comprehension more in Louisiana schools. That was no great call on my part. In essence, I heard Sean Payton say it. And now, everybody takes words literally. That, because Patrick asked him basically, name me a quarterback that reminds you of you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and Sean's right. He wouldn't pick him. He wouldn't have picked himself.
Right.
But I get the question. He was talking about mental makeup, toughness, smarts, being able to read coverages, that sort of thing. Read between the lines with Sean. He is telling you he thinks Ian Book can be a starting quarterback in the NFL. and he can fix the flaws. Okay, he's not telling you that, but okay, a comprehension tells you, listen to how he talks about Book. Well, he's in a crowded room. There's a lot of things he's got to learn. He's a smart kid, everything. Okay, I get it. I know exactly where he's going with this. Not in year one. I would not be surprised, and I've said this before, and again, it's back to comprehension, that you look at Ian Book and what he's done at Notre Dame. He's been a winner, right around 64% completion passer. 30, I think he's 30-5, which is pretty doggone good.
He won a lot of games.
And that's we think about when he played against LSU. Man, they Wimbash. Come on, they had him beat. They put in Book. I mean, it's one of those I be damn moments because he was hot that day. I mean, he was hitting receivers, and then again you had a one-handed catch to it at the end of the game. But I had one guy. He texted me that day. Oh, you say he's so mobile. I don't remember him running one time against LSU. No, he didn't run once. He ran 11. Oh, man, they got some real smarties out there. No, he ran 11 times. He's not Taysom Hill. He's not that big. He's not that fast. He's not that strong as Taysom. There is no other Taysom Hill in the NFL today for his skill set and what he can do as that all-purpose guy. 17 touchdowns. He's carried the ball over 360 times in college football. Okay? He ain't a rookie running the ball. He understands, and Sean wants to get all the quarterbacks involved. Watch and see if he doesn't throw something out there, like a little option. Okay? Get near the end zone, kind of catch you with your feet off the ground a little bit and let Ian run the option. So I can read between what he's saying. Now, the one flaw, and I told you this and others, and this is from high school. You can see it. In the games that he sets up strong and sets with his feet over the top mechanics, man, he's accurate. Where it looks like somebody has shot him at times. I mean, he's falling back, and there's no one around him. Just watch that film, and he's falling back, throwing it. Now, you know what? That's a habit. He picked that up from getting hit in high school, and I think the Notre Dame coaches say, wait. We're not reinventing the wheel here. Let him be like that. We're not going to – but what that does is mess with his accuracy skills and mess what I call strength of a throw. He doesn't have everything in it when he's falling back. And so it does affect the throw. I think Sean's like, okay, is that what I have to fix? I can take care of that. And read between the lines what Peyton is saying. He's telling you somewhere down the line he thinks Ian Book can be a starting quarterback in the National Football League. He's not the biggest guy, but come on. He's taller than the guy that was there before.
Right.
I guarantee if they stood next to one another, Ian beats him by a little bit. He's a little bit taller than Drew. But again, you got a guy that's played in a lot of big games, a lot of big moments, a lot of scrutiny. Man, when you're playing at Notre Dame and you got a lot of critics, that you got a lot more critics than you have guys that are patting you on the back. So it was an interesting comment he made, and I sort of think I know what happened here. He was watching film of Ian Book probably the day before or that morning, and that was on his mind. Ian Book. Come on, we do talk show for a living. Sometimes it's not something you remember all of a sudden. It's something that happened earlier that day or the day before, and it's right there in your mind. That's why he said Ian Book to Dan Patrick. And then he really makes you laugh. He says, I don't even remember saying it. Come on. If he don't remember saying it, I mean, come on. I got mountain front property behind my home. Come on. He knew what he was saying, but he sort of let the cat out the bag on that particular part. So now if you can get a starting quarterback in the fourth round, and I'm not saying because I haven't seen him play in a professional game, but if that mechanics can be fixed, I think he's the type of guy Sean really likes and to run an offense. He's cerebral, and we're going right back to the other three guys: smart, tough, efficient. Come on, it's almost like a blueprint of the type of player he wants. Now, did he get picked higher than he should? Some people feel that way, but guess what? You're not Sean Payton.
Yeah.
You can be critical and say, "Oh, I think he's a 7th-round pick at best, 6th-round pick at best." Okay, well, Sean don't give a damn about what you think. Sean cares about what he thinks. You know that's why he's the head coach. He cares about what he believes, not what some fan is thinking, not what some guy from the media, anything else. And Matt, I appreciate the pat on the back and everything.
Hey, man, you're the only one who said it. Come on.
My thing is, am I the only one that comprehended this?
Must have.
Come on, I know I wasn't the only one that heard it. Come on, that's a national show. So my thing with that is, again, we should start teaching comprehension a little bit more in school because, in essence, as I've talked about Coach O, and maybe because I've known him for longer, but
that's true.
He leaves the breadcrumbs. You know, come on, he's not writing your story or doing your talk show, but he leaves the breadcrumbs for you on what's happening. And it was funny because as soon as I heard about TJ Finley, and we've talked about this, and I know we'll talk more about it. Of all the quarterbacks, every press conference he had, who did he talk about? Garrett Nussmeier, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was Nussmeier's really, in essence, he's telling you, hey, man, it's going to be really tough for TJ here, because Max and Miles are going to fight it out. Garrett, he's a different style quarterback, and, not all these guys are going to stay. It's just the nature of the world. But in essence, Sean left the breadcrumbs for me. It was easy.
Let me get a thought on the Saints' 6th and 7th round picks. Landon Young, the offensive lineman out of Kentucky, and then Quan Baker, the wide receiver. And Mike, it's interesting. I'm looking at the M&D draft report. 62 wide receivers you graded, none of them Quan Baker. So what can you tell us about both guys?
Okay, I'll go Quan first.
Okay.
He was not really the guy last year at South Alabama. They have a superstar player in Jalen Tolbert, who has emerged there. And next year at this time, we're going to be talking about how high Jalen Tolbert get picked in the draft. I mean, he's legitimately a star player at South Alabama. And so they kicked him inside, and he's played mostly in the slot at South Alabama. Hurts his knee late in the year. So, kind of out of sight, out of mind. But he goes to South Alabama's pro day, and everybody was there to watch Riley Cole, the linebacker. And Quan had the best workout of his life. He told us, man, I didn't drop a pass. Everything worked for him. He ran a 4.4 40-yard dash, 38.5 vertical. He caught everything they threw to him. He likes the slot, and I've heard Sean say, we're going to put him outside. We kind of know what he can do in the slot and see how well he handles that. He's a developmental player. Now, the one thing he got to develop out of himself is he's an Atlanta Falcon fan.
Ooh.
No, he grew up, his high school is actually like 3.5 to 4 miles away from the Atlanta airport. No, he grew up a Falcons fan because we were prodding him on about, come on, dude, you got to let that dirty bird go. And I said, man, listen, you know who signs that check now? And he got a good laugh about it, but he's a developmental guy, and he's somebody certainly Curtis Johnson likes. He got selected off of that pro day. I'm telling you.
Okay.
Had he not had that big-time pro day, he'd have been an undrafted free agent signed. Now, he had agreed to terms with the Saints, but I think the Saints thought maybe somebody might slip in and pick him because they had, I'm going to say, over 20 scouts there watching, and they all surrounded Baker after the workout because he really did a great job there. So we'll see with him, but I think he's a developmental player, and I think he's better in the slot than he is outside. Man, Landon, man, to hear him talk, he great. Man, he gave us 28 minutes, never shut up. I mean, I'm like, man, look who I'm with, and look at him talking. And he was clipping him off, But the best comment was, because I knew the background, 5-star recruit. He was ranked either 1, 2, or 3, depending on the service, from a tackle standpoint when he came out of high school.
Yeah.
Discus shot put champion in Kentucky, wrestled, and also did some powerlifting. So I asked him, I said, for people who don't know, you kind of tell the schools that were offering and kind of really putting the pressure on you. And I mean, nonchalantly was like, yeah, man, he said Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, Penn State, Georgia, Florida, Oklahoma. But it was like, yeah, okay. They were after me, but he wanted to stay home. And he wanted to play for Kentucky. He wanted to change that program. If you watched him play there, big left tackle, he's better on the right side. He is a brute of a man, powerhouse, run blocker. What he's going to have to work on is pass protection skills, setup. They didn't do much of that at Kentucky. Come on. Kentucky ain't throwing the football 25 to 35 times a game.
Right.
You lucky you get 15 out of them. So that's going to be the cut with Landon. Terrific run blocker, powerful, smart, gets it. But that transition from going to that type, I guess, system, you call it, at Kentucky, and they stick you the middle finger and said, I'm going to run it and you stop it. We ain't tricking you. Now, they do some wildcat stuff, but basically they're not throwing the football all over the field. They're going to run it. So that's going to be the transition for Young to learn pro-style pass blocking techniques, footwork, steering that guy to the edge. And, again, I think he's a better right tackle in the pros than a left tackle. But he's a big man. And who works him out? Zach Strief. I'm very disappointed in Zach that he didn't tip me to that. But we'll have that conversation another time. But because he made the comment, he's one of the few guys I actually had to look up to. Now, Zach's 6'7" plus,
yeah,
and Landon's 6'6" and 3/4, so it wasn't much of a look up, but still, he's a huge man. And you talk about a talker, man, I love to hunt and fish, and, man, he was talking about that sort of thing, so he'll fit in right well. But if you're in a boat with him, you better make it a strong one. No, I saw Faneca years ago, and Faneca used to live in Thibodeau. Man, and I could spot him coming down the bayou in the boat. And that was before Allen lost all that weight.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a man who's 6'5" and over 300 pounds in a boat. He ain't hiding that size for sure.
You got the back end dragging the bottom.
Man, that boat's way up in the air. Put it to you that way.
Mike, let me get a thought here on the LSU guys who were picked. Who do you think went to just an awesome landing spot?
I think it's Jamar. I just, you look at it, his connection with Joe. I mean, we've talked about this. I just worry about, can they protect Joe?
Yeah.
But, man, Jamar's going to be an unreal player there. And great fit, because of his connection with Joe. And we saw it. We talked about it weeks ago that I sort of thought that teams may go to their quarterbacks and say, okay, you've dealt with him. Kind of how do you feel? And it's now leaking out more and more that it's Joe that changed their mind. It was Joe that went lobby for Jamar. Tua with Jalen Waddle.
Sure.
Jalen Hurts with Devontae. All connections across the board. And Trevor even made the comment that he had maybe a talk. He said it with a smile. Had a talk or two with Urban Meyer about Travis Etienne at running back. So, again, that connection there, I think it's a great fit for it. And as soon as Carolina came up to pick in the second round, and we all sort of knew why Terrace took the dip was because of the injuries. When Carolina came up to pick, I was like, there's no way. Joe Brady ain't letting him off here. And I think that's a great setup there. Joe knows him extremely well from his time at LSU. He's a big receiver with speed, great fit. I just hope with Jabril, the shoulder injury, which we find out a little bit later, that can clear for him, because that's a spot for him there, and especially in the coverage part of the game where I think Cox is really good. So if you had to give me one choice, man, it's Jamar going to Cincinnati with Joe Burrow And isn't that going to become much-watched TV? I mean, for people here, not only in Ohio, but down here to watch Joe and Jamar. Now, you just, hope that they can keep Joe healthy and keep him upright, because they're going to put on a show. And he's got T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. And Joe Mixon's a really good running back. Man, I don't know how many games they're going to win, but they're going to put points up on the board, and they're going to be very entertaining.
Mike, and they draft Tyler Shelvin, too, and they picked up Thaddeus Moss. You got a huge LSU connection in Cincinnati now, and obviously in Cleveland, too. The state of Ohio.
Hey, look at Cleveland.
Yeah, it's taking over LSU players.
Like, you talk about Grant, Delpit, Greedy, Jarvis, OBJ.
Jacob Phillips.
So you got 5 there. Now, the chili sales will go up high in Cincinnati with Tyler. Man, I'm just telling you. Tyler, this is good. This is good stuff here. And it is good, we'll say.
Let's get to questions for Mike D. If you got them, you know how to get them in. Let's start with William Jortsberg. I'm going to say the H is silent. Does Mike know why the Saints passed on cornerback Eric Stokes? Thoughts, Mike?
My thought is that they had Peyton Turner ranked higher, bottom line. Now, I will say this about Stokes. He wasn't the guy they picked on at Georgia. It was Tyson Campbell. When you play Georgia, that's where you threw the football. Tyson's maybe the most athletic of all the cornerbacks in this draft class. Man, but he gets down on himself too much. It bothers him if he gets beat. Come on, you got to shake that off. You got to have amnesia. But just a higher-ranked player, because that need at cornerback was huge.
Brandon Peaks has asked Mike, how do you think the 49ers did? By the way, the other attaboy Mike, the only person who a month ago was calling Trey Lance to the Niners, and they stuck with it.
Yeah, I think with that, right off the bat, I think there was a little bit of mixed opinions on who they should go with. But I knew who the general manager wanted. I knew it was Lynch, and he wanted Trey. And I'd been told that by somebody who knows him really, really well. And so I stuck with that. Listen, I'm not going to get thrown off the horse. I'm going to ride that thing until it throws me. And so, but I knew that afternoon that they were going to go with Trey through an agent. So I thought the 49ers did really well. They made the right pick with Trey Lance. And, they're a football team that finds backs that fit what they do. They get Trey Sermon, who started at Oklahoma, and then he went to Ohio State. He can court that team. If they can stay healthy, they're going to be a contender. And I'm talking about them and the Rams and Seattle. You're talking about a tough spot in that NFC West. Those 3 teams just battling it out. And the clock is ticking on Jimmy G. Just how long will he go? Because health will certainly come into play, but the 49ers did a really good job.
Patrick McKenzie, Matt, please ask Mike about TJ Finley. Thoughts on the transfer, Mike, and where he might land?
Yeah, that's not a surprise to me. I think he could read the writing on the wall, and we're living in that age, where, Baker Mayfield takes off from Texas Tech to go to Oklahoma, and Russell Wilson did it even before then, North Carolina State to Wisconsin, and Joe Burrow, and Jalen Hurts, and Kyler Murray, and Justin Fields, and JT Daniels. So it's just the nature of what happens. I would think Arkansas is one of those teams interested.
Okay.
I think that's a fit there for him. I think Louisiana Tech is another school that will show up. Now, come on, for TJ, he's got to pick the right school here now. It's got to be the right fit for him, and a team that's going to throw the football a lot. And I think, there's going to be a lot of different teams here. I wish him well, really good young man, but I think Arkansas is one of the teams heavily after him, and I would think Tennessee is another.
Okay.
Along with Louisiana Tech. Let me just throw that in.
Okay. Mitch Fontenot says, ask Mike if Major Burns becomes an LSU Tiger. For those who don't know, of course, Baton Rouge guy went to Georgia, announced his transfer this week as a safety.
Okay, say that one more time.
Mike,
Will he become?
Yeah, do you think Major Burns ends up at LSU?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, look where he grew up, And there's a big hole, especially at safety.
Yeah.
Come on, you got to take a look at that as far as I'm concerned. And I think he'd be a really good fit football player. And, for me, it's just like with TJ. It's got to be right for you. And I think LSU would be right for him. And there is a spot there for him at safety to play. And Baton Rouge guy.
Is Dustin just Claire? Ask Mike update on Eric Gilbert.
On where he's going to end up?
I guess so.
Man, I got no clue. None. Absolutely none. I wouldn't even take a guess what Eric Gilbert at this stage. He's been all over the board. I always will say this. I would be surprised if he came back to LSU.
I would agree. All right.
I would. That would surprise me.
Ask Mike's Jared Vadrine said, how close were the Saints to moving into the top 10?
I think initially Sean wanted Jalen Waddle, the receiver from Alabama. That didn't work out, and then I think he went after one of the two corners. If it was J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain, didn't work out. When Mac Jones started to fall, they were making phone calls about Mac. Because I know how much he liked Mac Jones. He really thought a lot of him as a player. And so it was whiff. It was just too much to give up. And we've talked about this. It makes sense to you and I, but not to them. Come on, you're dropping all the way down to 28? Come on, I don't want to go down that far.
Yeah.
If you were 21, that might have been a difference. But there is no doubt they were trying to get up into that top 10. I think initially for Waddle or one of the two corners. And then I think they tried to make the move up for Mac Jones. And it didn't work. None of it. Come on, you had to throw in 3 first-round picks? That's a lot to kick in at this stage, especially with a roster that you know that you're going to have to add on to fairly soon here.
Mike Detillier, SaintsReport.com, MikeDetillier.com, M&D Draft Report with us every Thursday here on AFR. He is the best. Y'all follow him on Twitter at Mike Detillier. Of course, Saints News Network, part of SI.com. Mike D, you the best. We appreciate you as always. Let's do it again next week.
Thank you, Matt.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.